Well, I'll just start off, and then I'd be happy to take any questions. The first thing I want to do is I want to personally thank Mr. Bennett and Sam and Troy and the rest of the front office. As a coach, I couldn't ask for more support, people that couldn't be more gracious and helpful, in myself and our staff. Trying to do our job each and every day, and I have great appreciation that when you're working with people that you can work collectively and cohesively together and have a shared vision and be on the same page. And I never ever take this organization for granted, and how they've helped myself and our staff, just for me personally, over the last 2 years. Going back to the start of this season, there was a lot of uncertainty, I think, going into this year, just with our roster, a lot of new faces, a lot of new guys. Some of the players I knew a little bit, like Victor Oladipo, just from a recruiting situation, didn't really know. Obviously didn't know Alex at all, didn't know Domas Sabonis, didn't know a lot of these new guys. And then certainly the addition of Norris Cole and Taj Gibson. And Doug McDermott, I didn't know those guys. So your first concern going into, I think, to any season is, first and foremost, how's your chemistry going to be? And I think a lot of times people don't get a chance to see what takes place behind closed doors. And I couldn't ask for a better group of guys, and I appreciated so much, in particular on the road, how hard this group, being new, worked together to try to become connected and try to become a closer team and to try to play together. Obviously, with the roster changing over, you're trying to establish an identity, you're trying to establish a style of play, and you're trying to integrate people, and you're trying to figure out how people can be most effective and useful in a particular role. And I thought our team, during the course of the season, just got better and better. I thought we improved. I think everybody knows the youthfulness of our team. But also I thought with that youthfulness, we were able to gain an enormous amount of experience this season with a lot of young players that I think are only going to continue to get better and improve. My focus now going forward is how do we continue to keep building and continue to keep getting better, because we've obviously got a group of guys that are great guys, great to work with, and I also think have got great upside. So I was really pleased and happy with a lot of the uncertainty going into the year with our roster, what the season would even look like. And I thought these guys from start to finish just did a terrific job coming together as a team, working hard collectively as a group, and trying to continue to get better throughout the course of the season.
What do you think has Russell expressed to you about the makeup of this team and the youth and where it might be going forward?
I think he's pretty clear about that. That's the one thing I would tell you that I appreciated the whole year, was just seeing how much these guys came together as a team, how they grew together as a team, how much time they tried to spend with each other to get to know each other. And, I've been around, the whole key to having any chance to be successful is when people are working together. And I was really, really impressed and pleased with the way the group collectively worked together.
Improving. Victor and Steven are two guys that are on longer-term deals, going to be here a while. What do you see areas where they can most improve, and how much better can they?
Well, I think two things. I think one is Victor, statistically had maybe his most efficient season of his career. His numbers or points from here to Orlando are about the same, but he was really efficient for us. Steven, I think, walked into a new role, just being honest. He went into a different role, I think, for Victor and for Steven. This season was really a season of firsts. And that's what I would say for a lot of our guys. It was a season of first. I think it was a season of first for Russell, having to lead a new group of guys. I think it was a season of first for Steven, taking over a more prominent role. I think it was a season of first of Victor coming into a new organization. Same thing with Doug and Taj. There's a lot of seasons of first. I think Steven and Victor will continue to get better, and I think their summers will be very, very important. I think if you look at Steven throughout his career, every year he's gotten better, so I'm encouraged. I'm very optimistic that he'll continue to do that. I think Victor having 1 year under his belt here, this will be another, I think, big off season for him to continue to improve and get better. But I'm very optimistic with both those guys. One, because of their character, and I think two, because of their work ethic, and I think three, how deeply they care about the team.
How important was it for those young guys to experience this now? Now they're no longer can they say they haven't been to the playoffs. They've gone through it. They've gone through tough games. Now they understand.
Well, I feel like myself and our staff, what we've got to help, I don't believe that because you're a year older that you become a year better. I think you have to put in perspective what you learned and be exactly on point about what you learned, and then what you've learned is got to then make you better. But to take the route of, well, we've been to the playoffs, we know what to expect now, and then just assume that you're going to get better, I don't think it ever works like that. We've got to really, I think, map out and help our players put into context their season individually, our season collectively as a whole, how to get better and what are the avenues to do that, and the things that they did learn and the things that maybe we learned about them. How do you come together as a group and collaboratively work together to make those kind of improvements? I think that's really important. I think the biggest mistake we could make is to think, okay, this group, for Victor, for Jeremy, for Alex, for Domas, it's the first time they've been through it, absolutely. But we've got to get better from that. And just because you went through it doesn't mean you get better from it, in my opinion.
Billy, you mentioned a season of firsts. What did you learn this season for yourself?
Well, the one thing I always love about coaching is that every season is totally different. I may come into the same office every day, but every day provides something new, and I always, I find that to be great. I feel very blessed and fortunate. A lot of times in jobs, it can be the same old mundane thing. It's not that way, I think, in coaching and when you're around a team. Everything is somewhat new, fresh. I learned a lot about these guys. There was a lot of uncertainty that I had just because you're trying to piece together a team that's totally different with a lot of new and young guys. And the first and foremost, we talked a lot about the chemistry and the cohesiveness and being a connected group and having to play together. And they worked really, really hard at that. So I learned a lot about those guys. As a coach, a head coach, I've dealt with a lot of different experiences in terms of guys that have been younger or older. I do think going through this group and being young, there's no shortcut to getting better. And I think it's important that they understand that as well, too, what we just talked about. Just because of the experiences mean you get better. And there's a process. Like if you want to be very, very, very good and continue to get better, there's no shortcuts to that. That is a long process. And I'd say I learned probably a lot about these guys. Learned a lot about, I think, like every season you coach, just different things, about our team in particular, maybe that I didn't know about before the season started because of the uncertainty.
Coach, obviously, free throw shooting for Andre became a focal point during the playoffs. What do you need to see from him during the offseason?
Well, listen, Andre gave us an opportunity in, 4 of the 5 games to be right there with his defense and the things that he did, and then certainly his scoring average going way up. But this is, a point I would make is Andre is a better free throw shooter than what he showed in that series. And I said, that I have confidence in him, and I do. But, that's an area of focus that, he really needs to put the time and effort and energy into this offseason to continue to get better in those areas. And Andre's always been a guy to me, my 2 years being around him, when there's a challenge put in front of him or there's an area that he needs to get better at, he always puts his best foot forward and tries to give everything he has to that. I don't think there's any question he's going to put focus on all areas of his game, but certainly free throw shooting.
Billy, you've had a year now to coach Russell with this group of guys, whether through analytics or your gut feeling or what you see on the floor. Do you have a sense of what kind of players are best to surround him with, and the more lineups around him that you think will work best?
Yeah, I like our team a lot. I like our guys a lot. I would probably defer that to Sam, just from the standpoint that I got a lot of trust and confidence in Sam. I think he works tirelessly each and every day to try to figure out ways to improve our team. I think he'll look at that. We'll probably have a chance to sit down and talk about those things. But, Russell in a leadership role, in my opinion, and I think the guys would echo this, took a lot of new guys and a new group of guys and really, I think, tried to show them the way and was in the trenches, and we were in the trenches together. and we worked hard to connect together. And the biggest thing I can tell you about Russell, which is the most important thing to him, it's always about just guys going out there and competing. And he'll go to battle with anybody. And I feel like our guys, as a group and as a whole, did that. We didn't always play perfect or great, but we went out there and we competed and we played.
Billy, you mentioned that it's not going to be a quick process to get better for this team to go to the next level. How willing do you think Russell is to go through that process after already being through it once before?
Yeah, I mean, I think that you're going through a process of improvement. An improvement process takes time for everything. I mean, I think if you look at Russell's improvement process over his career, just how he's continued to grow and develop every single year, I expect and anticipate the same thing's going to happen. At the end of the day, I've been, in the college level and here now in the NBA level, there's only one team happy every year. Every other team's trying to get better, and that's just the reality of it. And I've always felt like this as a coach, and I learned this when I was really, really young, because having a chance to be a part of 2 national championships, losing in a national championship game, when the season ends and you're not the last team standing, there's purpose and meaning in every season. And there was purpose and meaning in this season to help us get better. And we'll be better for what we went through this year. And I couldn't be any more encouraged with the quality of people and the character that I had a chance to work with, each and every day. So improvement always takes time. I can't tell you that the jump we'll make will be from here to here, where it will be. But every team, maybe outside of one, is trying to get better. And that's what we're always going to do, is try to get better.
Really, with the way the game is headed, it seems like Jeremy Grant's the type of guy that might have, an important, prominent role moving forward. What would you challenge him to focus on heading into this summer?
Yeah, I think his versatility, what he did, in this series, it was unique because Ryan Anderson played some center spot for them, but he's played anywhere from the small forward spot to the center spot for us. I love his versatility. I think he got more and more comfortable as the year went on. He shot the ball well from behind the three-point line. I still think there's more to his game, and he can continue to get better. I'm encouraged with him. And again, I think coming to a new team when he did, being traded, missing a lot of training camp. I mean, we had, Jeremy, we had Doug, we had Norris, we had Taj. Those guys all missed training camp. And I couldn't have been more pleased with the way they came in. And, even Doug, Taj, and Norris coming in when they came in February, that's not easy. It's not easy for Taj Gibson to come into a situation where he's, been with an organization for his entire career, and now there's a change in the, middle of the day, and now he's here in Oklahoma, and just his professionalism, the way he handled himself. Same thing with Doug, and the same thing with Jeremy. That he's gonna. I think these guys going through what they went through is only going to make them better.
Did Jeremy prove he's maybe more power forward than small forward as the season went on for you guys?
Well, he's got. Yeah, I mean, he's got. I think there's certain times the power forward spot he's got some advantages, because one of his greatest strengths that probably people don't talk about is he's a terrific rim protector and he's a great shot blocker. And sometimes in those situations he could be a little bit closer to the basket at that power forward spot to protect the rim than more so at the small forward spot.
Assuming that, how do you get the most out of Ennis as this league sort of continues to evolve, more perimeter-oriented bigs, and just the way the game's changing?
Well, I think you got to look at a couple things. The first thing is, one, is the Houston series just calling it like it is, and I think any playoff series is about matchups, and before Ennis hurt his forearm, I think everybody here would at least give to strong consideration that he was in the running for the sixth man of the year. So we would not have had the type of season without Ennis that we had. The second part of that was playing Dallas last year in the playoffs and them doing some different things with Nowitzki playing him at the 4 and the 5. Going into that next series against San Antonio, if he's not on our team, we probably, don't maybe have a chance to advance to play against Golden State. If we were fortunate enough to pass and get by Houston, he would have been extremely prominent in the next round against, Memphis and or San Antonio. So I think the playoffs are about matchups and just calling it like it was. This was a tough matchup part, but also Ennis contributed an awful lot to our team to put us in a position to be in the playoffs with the way he played throughout the course of the season. So I think probably for him, he's a competitor. He wants to be out there like any of these guys do. But also, I think he also understands that sometimes those matchups can be difficult.
That being said, you feel like you can play with two traditional bigs with Ennis and Steven on the floor, even as
I feel like you have to be able to play multiple ways. You know, this was a series where, I thought we did a really, really good job on Ryan Anderson in this series, and he's been a real prominent and important piece to their team. And, maybe he didn't have the impact on the series like he's had with their team during the course of the year. Maybe the next series he's a huge factor. But I do think you have to be able to play multiple ways. And, I don't think you can sit there and say, listen, we can never have a big lineup out there, because there's going to be times where you're going to need that. And there's certainly some times, certainly against Houston, we needed some small lineups out there.
How much do you see DeMonis having a bigger role on this team next year after what you saw from him his rookie year?
Yeah, I don't really look at it that way. I look at it more that he gained an awful amount of experience. He obviously started a good portion of the season for us. He played a lot of minutes as a rookie on a really, really good team, which I thought was helpful. I think that he's going to be able to improve. I think anytime you're a rookie, you go through your first year, usually you make a pretty big jump, in my opinion, just experience-wise, with the length of the season, 82 games, the normal rhythm and pattern of an NBA season. I think he'll get better. How our team looks next year, I do feel totally confident that he'll be a strong factor to our team, going forward.
Billy, the 10,000-foot view, is there any point in the season when you felt this team turn the corner before the trade or after the trade, winning 7 out of your last 9? What's your take on just looking up that high the whole season?
Well, again, I think when you go back and look at the whole season, it was a season of, in a lot of ways, not playing with a full complement of roster, obviously. Victor Oladipo missed 9 games, with his wrist injury. Enes Kanter goes out before the All-Star break with his broken forearm. We come back out of All-Star break. Ennis comes back. Victor goes out with a back. Then we had Norris, Taj, and Doug. And I think it took us some time. I think there was some games that we probably lost because we had some new pieces we were trying to integrate very, very quickly. So that's what I'm saying. With what this team did, with the injuries and the changes and all the different things that transpired during the course of the season, I think from your standpoint, Mike, the overall view, it was pretty remarkable what these guys did, because we had to battle through some different things throughout the course of the season.
What Samaj did, here's a guy who's played in Europe, played in the D-League, and then all of a sudden here he is in the NBA, and at times playing in important games.
There's, to me, as a coach, you because when you're not the last team standing, there's different things that you go through that make what you do every day extremely valuable. Being with Samaj last summer and seeing how he was in training camp and the growth that he made, for me as a coach, was really rewarding, because it was the hard road for him. It wasn't the easy road. It was the D-League. It was overseas. It was coming back. Is he going to make the team? Is he not going to make the team? It's Cameron Payne's hurt. He's the backup point guard. Now when Cameron comes back, he's out. And then Cameron's traded and Norris Cole comes in. He's back out. Then we come back with him. And his maturity as a young guy to put the team first, to do whatever I asked him to do of what I thought may be best for the team, and his ability to stay ready, for Kyle Singler at the end of the year to do what he did, going through long stretches where he did not play, was great. The unselfishness of Samaj and what he did, I couldn't be any prouder of him, because what he went through this year wasn't easy, to keep yourself ready, especially being young and it's your first year in the league. He did a great job.
Do you regret at all not using Victor more at point during the regular season?
Yeah, I think I always say this. Victor is in a lot of situations with the second unit where the ball's in his hands and he's playmaking, and sometimes from an offensive perspective, it's easy to stay consistent running offense, because the minute you go from a small forward to a power forward, or you go from a 2 guard to a point guard, the whole playbook changes. And I've always said this, okay, like what's a point guard? Does the guy bring the ball up the court on a made basket, so that makes him the point guard? To me, a point guard is somebody that can create and generate and make plays. So even though at times he didn't bring the ball up the court, he still, I think, in that second unit, he and Ennis were our two main kind of cogs for us offensively. So I'd liked putting the ball in Victor's hands. We did a little bit of that last night against Houston. Part of the reason why I did it is with Doug and Alex out there to provide some shooting. We tried to go with Ennis a little bit earlier in the game. But I've always looked at Samaj as a playmaking, not Samaj, Victor as a playmaking guard, regardless of if he's bringing the ball across half court or not, because he'll get it in transition sometimes. He'll get it on missed shots. He'll get it through some action, and we put him in some stuff where he can generate and create and make plays. So sometimes the point guard spot's a little bit, people view it as, okay, well, it's a made basket. He must be the point guard. He's bringing the ball up the court. And sometimes a lot of times those guys are actually just initiating offense, and then Victor's the one actually playing kind of the point. But it's hard sometimes for a player to understand a whole playbook when it's totally flipped, and now he's got to remember, where's this guy go, where's that guy, and sometimes that's hard.
Some people have dubbed this the season of Westbrook. Said it's the most amazing thing they've ever seen by an individual player. You were obviously there for every moment of that. What are you going to remember most about that?
I mean, his season was historic, and I think it's been well written and well documented. But what I'm going to remember more than anything else is what he did from a leadership standpoint behind closed doors every single day. And that's the unfortunate part that people don't get a chance to see. And, just even bringing Domas Sabonis in when he was struggling in pick and roll offensively to get into the right areas where Russell could find him, and he brings him in at 8:30 in the morning and works with him. Andre's going through a tough situation in Game 4 from the free throw line, and he's yelling from the free throw line at the other end of the court, encouraging him. Just the different things that he did was remarkable. Certainly, everybody saw what took place between the lines. It was historic, it was remarkable. But for him to be in a leadership role and to deal with a lot of new faces that he had to learn how to play with, that he had to learn how to help. Those players needed to learn how to help him. They needed to learn to become a team. They needed to learn how to work together. Those are the things that really, really stood out to me. Because like I said, when you're a coach and you're coming in with all these new players and there's all this uncertainty of how good are we going to be, what are we going to look like, how are we going to play, you need someone in a leadership role to pull the group together. And he did a terrific job on the road, those guys going to dinner, spending time, enjoying each other's company, being around each other. You have to be able to do those things so that you can talk and communicate and have a relationship that in the most heated moments, you can kind of go to each other and rely on each other. And I was really extremely impressed the way he handled all that this year.
Billy, from the moment you got here, you preached player movement, ball movement, extra pass. Even coming into this season, I think you told the vertical that the year for Russell Westbrook would be totally different, your phrase, than it was in 2014, that injury-plagued season when he had to carry so much. At what point did it go from that to him leading the league in usage, setting an all-time rate, and why?
I'm not sure I understand the question.
Him having to carry so much of the load, how did it go from player movement, ball movement, extra pass, and everyone fitting into a system, into him carrying so much of the load this year, and why?
Yeah, I mean, I don't know if I look at the usage rate like they look at usage rate, because the usage rate is like turnovers, shots, and getting fouled. There's no assists in there, and he was one of the league leaders in assists. I actually thought he did a terrific job, and I thought we did a very, very good job. I think it's an area with Jeremy Grant and Domas Sabonis we can get better as those guys being ball transfers, transferring of the ball. I think Jeremy got better, and you saw signs of him in the playoffs making those plays, and I thought Domas will continue to get better being a rookie. But, Russell, all the usage rate stuff, everybody was saying the same thing the whole entire year after the first 10 games of the season. Can he keep this up? Can he keep this up? Can he keep this up? He's played the same way he's always played. And people think usage rate is wearing him down. Usage rate had nothing to do with wearing him down. I actually thought he did a great job of getting everybody involved. I think the two guys that generated offense for us, or three, was Ennis's post-ups during the course of the year, and I think Ennis got really good at passing the ball out of the post, and the other guy was Victor. And what you've got to do is you've got to basically create situations where your playmakers can make plays for themselves or somebody else. And when they made plays for somebody else, that's where I think a guy like Jeremy and Domas will get better as they start to transfer the ball, move the ball to different places. So I've never been I know everybody talked about the usage rate, and I think everybody was waiting for him just to fall off a cliff and just like peter out and, okay, they're done. I think he learned an awful lot the year before I got here, where he tried to carry the team on his own, and I didn't think he did. I thought he carried the team leadership wise, but I thought he got everybody really involved, and that's why I thought we became a good team, and maybe could have been a team that won maybe more than 50 games had we been healthy in certain situations. But I was really, really pleased with the way he got everybody involved.
I don't want you to focus on the usage rate. I'm just using that as sort of a measurement. Were you pleased with how your philosophy, your style of play, your preferred style of play, player movement, ball movement, extra pass, played out this season?
I think we can always get better in those categories. I'm always looking to get better, on that end of the floor. I'm always a big believer of ball movement and player movement. I do think a lot of times when Russell plays, because of the ability to attract two defenders and sometimes threes, sometimes his passes lead to direct shots. And sometimes those guys don't need to make an extra pass. But there was times, like in the playoffs, where he found Jeremy Grant in the pocket, and Jeremy went to go dunk the basketball, and help came across, and he took it, and he swung it to the three-point line for a shot. Like, those are the plays that I really, really like. But also the fact that Russell sometimes can generate offense, force somebody else on a direct drive or in transition. The guys run the floor, and he throws a bounce pass, and guy goes in and dunks. Like, we don't need ball movement. And sometimes with him, when he's doing that, we don't need ball movement. Where we need to keep getting better is that when he finds that next guy, and that next guy doesn't have a shot, can we help those guys be able to be playmakers as well to get the ball next side? So I'm always looking for growth and improvement in that, because if teams are going to send a couple people at him and they're going to make the next rotation, that next player's got to be able to make the next pass, and that's something that I'm always focused on.